Welcome into Sportsmemo's betting podcast for March 11th. Happy Monday to you. It's $9 Monday at sportsmemo.com, and we got Robbie Veno on the podcast today talking college basketball. It's conference championship week. Robbie, how you feeling? Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, I'm feeling great today, Drew. Obviously, it's a burning the midnight oil time of season now as we head into conference tournament time. But the excitement level goes way up, obviously, right, when we hit the postseason in college basketball, and certainly for the fans as well as us. As I say all the time, we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't love to do it. So, we're in it to make a buck, and the guy who gets the best number usually makes that buck, and hopefully we can lead the listeners here to some winning tickets as you try and keep up with, like I say, these conference tournaments, which as soon as one round ends, it seems like the next round starts. So you got to be on top of things. And this is a busy week for us, but a very good week, no doubt about it.
Yeah, March Madness has started. Not the big tournament, but leading into Selection Sunday, which is this Sunday. I believe also St. Patrick's Day, so a lot going on Sunday. Wear your green and watch Selection Sunday. Should be a fun day. But also, it's $9 Monday at sportsmemo.com, guys. Great day to check out the site. All plays discounted to just $9, even the top-rated plays. So make sure to check out the website. Also got a bunch of free plays from Robbie Veno as well. Follow him on Twitter at RobVenoSports. Robbie, let's start off with two 7 o'clock Eastern tips here, 4 o'clock Pacific. Smaller schools, one in the Horizon League, 881, 882, Green Bay, Wright State. Looks like 148.5 the total at most shops, minus 5.5 across the board. It opened 6.5, so got a little bit of opinion here in the market, but Wright State laying 5.5 now. How do you view this one, Robbie?
Yeah, it's third time around, which we see a lot at this time of year, and there's a lot of different philosophies on third time around. We've heard the old standard, it's tough to beat a team 3 times. I think you see examples like last night where North Dakota State put that to rest. They had really pounded Oral Roberts twice during the regular season, come back again yesterday laying a small number, -3, and go out and beat Oral Roberts real again for a third time. So while it is, in theory difficult to beat a team 3 times because, you throw that double revenge factor in there for whatever it's worth. But sometimes matchups are just matchups, Drew, and they're difficult to overcome. This particular case, we have a split season series with Green Bay winning once and Wright State winning once. And I'll tell you the most recent one where they played just recently on February the 28th. It was a 70-67 Wisconsin Green Bay win after getting beat pretty solidly the first time around. But there's some interesting quotes from head coach Scott Nagy of Wright State that I just want to bring out here on the show. And they probably would make you wonder why there's money going toward the Wisconsin Green Bay side in this particular game. For Nagy, off of the 70-67 loss on February 28th, he basically said, offensively, we couldn't get anything going. They just smothered us. Now, if we just go back to, I think, our Friday podcast where I was on, I said that my general theory is that coaches love to correct what went wrong the last time teams met up. And for Scott Nagy, obviously, he's telling you our offense just wasn't very good. We had trouble getting anything done. I would expect that they fix a few things this time around because in the first game they didn't have any problems offensively against Wisconsin Green Bay. So obviously Wisconsin Green Bay saw some things off the first meeting, made some defensive adjustments. They worked. Wright State, I expect to make some offensive adjustments here tonight. That'll work. Other thing you want to know about Wright State, and like I say, you love to get these coaches' quotes where there's some honesty to them. A lot of times they're very generic. They don't mean anything. But I think what Nagy had to say really brings some bearing onto which way you would want to play this game. He said, our team is playing well right now. I hardly even have to coach them. They're the ones who are running things and demanding people to do what they're supposed to do. They almost don't need me at this point. They're in a good spot. They're hungry. I was really pleased with how they played Tuesday. Defensively, we're just as sharp as we could be. All glowing praise for his team. A coach who tells you that the team almost doesn't need him at this point. They're a machine self-functioning that's running themselves. That's a pretty good team, especially when it's got some veterans on it like Wright State does. They're the most veteran team of the remaining four in this Horizon semifinal play tonight. I think they only lost one starter off of last year's team, 4 back. So for me to see this game go from Wright State's 6.5 opener down to 5.5, a little bit head scratching. I know that Wisconsin Green Bay has their own strengths, including the tempo that they play at. Wright State's your number 1 defensive efficiency team in the Horizon League. They're number 2 in offensive efficiency. Neutral floor is going to drag the line down a bit, understand, but I just don't know why the money came in towards Wisconsin Green Bay. For me, this would be a Wright State play minus the 5.5.
In Green Bay, Wright State on ESPNU tonight at 7 o'clock. We also got another 7 o'clock game I want to get to. And guys, just a reminder, it is $9 Monday at sportsmemo.com. And we got a special coupon code for Robbie Veno or myself, Drew Martins. 1-week service, 7-day all-access service for just $69. That's $50 off the retail price at sportsmemo.com. At checkout for 7-day all-access, CBB 69 at checkout for 7-day all-access for just $69, less than $10 a day, and you get every play released from the handicapper of your choice, CBB 69 at checkout. Robbie, another 7 o'clock tip here. This one in the SoCon Championship, UNC Greensboro at Wofford, 136 the total. This one on ESPN, Robbie, 7 o'clock prime time here. Should be a lot of eyeballs, and Wofford seeing -7 right now. It's been bouncing around between 6, even seeing a 7.5 out there at bookmakers. So some more money coming in on Wofford in a situation that you just spoke about in the last time, where Wofford's beat UNC Greensboro twice during the regular season, and it seems like that sentiment. It's tough to beat a team 3 times in one season, and I think that there is or can be something to that if they were competitive matchups where one team was in it and then maybe had lost by 5 or 7 points. Same thing the second game. Wofford beat them by 29 and by 30 points. Now it's 7, and it just doesn't seem right to me. But anyway, how are you viewing this SoCon Championship?
Well, I agree with you, Drew, and it's a real a big part of the reason why I had North Dakota State yesterday, because, like I said earlier, sometimes the matchups are just the matchups, and they're too difficult to overcome. And when you're talking about beating a team by 29 and 30, and a team as good as NC Greensboro is, remember, NC Greensboro's not some garbage Southern squad floating around the bottom of the conference standings. This is a team that has won, I think, 26, 27 games. So for them to be destroyed in the fashion that they were twice, and these games, Drew, it's not like they're played in a small time period. These 2 games were drastically different time-wise, because the first matchup was on January the 10th, which is real early in conference season, and sometimes a lot of poor play can be explained off by it's real early in conference season. But the second game was over a month later on February the 16th, mid-February, and the same result. It didn't matter what floor, it didn't matter what date, didn't matter what time, didn't matter anything. For Wofford, they came in and they basically had their way. They shot very well from 3-point range in both games, if you want to go to some indicator of why they were so successful. I mean, they're 14 of 27 the second time around after going 10 of 21. The first time around, that's 48 and 52% respectively. The other side of that coin is NC Greensboro, who went 4 of 19 and 4 of 13 from 3-point range in the 2 meetings. So that's a big fundamental mismatch right there, the ability of Wofford to shoot the threes. They've got multiple guys, I think 3 of them, that shoot over 40% and one very close to 40%. The name you'll hear everybody touting tonight will be Fletcher McGee, with basically unlimited range. But that matchup right there, the ability to score threes and defend threes, has been a big reason why Wofford's defeated NC Greensboro. I couldn't play Greensboro in this instance. As good a team as they are, like I say, the matchup is shown to be what it is. I don't think it'll matter what pace it's played at. It doesn't matter that it's a neutral floor. It's a national stage kind of for Wofford, Drew, and for them to come out tonight and have a sense of, show the nation we are as good as our record indicates. I think that'll be on display here. Not that Greensboro won't come fired up as well. This conference never gets national attention the way they'll get tonight. But still, I think Wofford's the better team. I think the matchup has favored them. The point spread, my power ratings made the game -7, so I think the number's fair on a neutral floor. Probably be Wofford minus the points or nothing here for me.
Yeah, it's one of those situations. I just think the odds, man, it's almost like people are getting too cute. UNC being like, quote unquote, the sharp side or whatever. I don't know. Sometimes that just doesn't work, and I think it gets too cute. Also, an interesting topic here, and you said, you mentioned it, prime time, 7 o'clock Eastern. If Wofford wins this game, well, what seed do you think they'll be, Robbie? You think they could be a 6 seed?
They've got a power rating strong enough, Drew, to probably get that high as far as seeding is concerned. Just to, kind of give people context of where they're power rated right now as a team heading into tonight's game. If they were in the ACC, you'd power rate them as good as Syracuse. So certainly it's a team of real strength if they were to pound expectations, line expectations here tonight. For instance, a 7-point favorite that goes out and wins by 25 again, the power rating will get even higher. So I don't know how willing the committee is to put low major conferences in a seed as high as 6. So you're talking about the top 24 in the nation. I don't know that they could get that high, but for a Southern Conference team to draw a 7 or an 8, something like that, that's pretty good stuff, and I think that's probably where they belong. They've got the talent to back that type of seeding up.
Yeah, I could see that. I wouldn't be wanting to play Wofford in the 8-9 matchup. And also another interesting tidbit here, if UNC Greensboro is able to not only cover but win the game, the SoCon would get 2 teams in, right, Robbie?
Yeah, they would, and there's forever, Drew. There's been conspiracy theories about these one-bid leagues with a team that's an automatic lock to already get in. Generally, it exists in the WCC with Gonzaga. Why wouldn't Gonzaga just go lay down in the tournament and get another team from that conference into the NCAA tournament? It gets more money for the conference. That conspiracy theory has existed for years. It hasn't worked in WCC play because Gonzaga wins it almost every year. It's like their annual tournament. But certainly you could keep that in the back of your head. But I don't know that any of the Wofford players, any of the Wofford coaching staff, really any of the executives for the Southern Conference really want that to be purposely done. So we'll see. But you're right. They would get 2 bids. I'm almost positive that Wofford would draw a bid even if they lose tonight.
Yeah, so all the bubble teams out there don't want that to happen. So if you're a fan of a bubble team, you're likely rooting for Wofford in this one. But let's move down the card here, Robbie. We got 9 p.m. Eastern tip, 6 p.m. Pacific. Pepperdine, Gonzaga. Looks like 885-886 on the rotation number. 156.5 the total. High total here, Robbie, but both teams can get up and down. Gonzaga's going to push it and score. They're having to lay 24 here, though, Robbie. It's the ultimate equalizer versus the Pepperdine team that is solid. They've put together some wins in a row here down the stretch to be able to put themselves in this position in the tournament. However, they're up against by some ratings, the number 1 team in the country, laying 24. How do you view this WCC matchup?
Yeah, and a veteran head coach, right, for Pepperdine, Lorenzo Romar's been around the block a few times, did me right on Saturday night, played the game against USF over the total. It did come through basically on the shoulders of Pepperdine 3-point shooting. They go 14 of 28 Saturday night against USF. Game was really never in doubt if you had the side. That game was bet, Drew, like they knew the result before the game even started. I mean, San Francisco attracted money on top of money on top of money, and I know a lot of that had to do with, third game in 3 nights. Pepperdine, third time, played Thursday, played Friday, playing Saturday. San Francisco's rested. Here we go. Pound USF from -5 all the way to -8. And, watch them lose by double digits and go down the drain. So Pepperdine did a nice job. And like I say, it was predicated on the three-point shooting, which is where they have to go to be successful. Here you've got a team in Gonzaga that's number 27 in the country in three-point defense. Certainly Gonzaga, which, by the way, held Pepperdine to only 30% from three-point shooting the first time around in this matchup. They win that game 92-64 about 3 weeks ago. And, that 28-point victory included keeping Pepperdine fairly quiet from beyond the arc. And after watching Saturday's game, head coach Mark Few is going to have his defenders at the perimeter ready to guard Pepperdine. I don't know that they get that many three-point shots to fall here tonight, Drew. I really don't. And this number seems excessive, 23.5, 24. But again, neutral floor power rating with numbers that I keep make Gonzaga a 24-point favorite. So it's not inflated. It's not anticipating a boatload of Gonzaga money. It just is what it is. It's a fair price. And I don't see any reason why Gonzaga, who won by 28 the first time, couldn't repeat that here again. Now, I just mentioned before when we were talking about conspiracy theories, and I referred to the West Coast Conference. Like I say, Gonzaga has never been one to show up to this league tournament and not give it their all. You just go through the results since 2012. 2018, Gonzaga number 1 seed wins. 2017, Gonzaga number 2 seed wins. 2016, Gonzaga number 2 seed wins. So on and so forth all the way through 13. Last other team to win it was St. Mary's in 2012. So you're talking about a team that's won it 6 straight times. They don't come here without a purpose. If this game had been played yesterday and it was Pepperdine's 4th in 4 nights, it might have been even worse for Pepperdine because maybe their legs would have given out. But they've had a day off. Even with the day off, I don't think it's enough. I couldn't play Pepperdine. I would probably play Gonzaga in this matchup. I just think that they've shown the ability to win by 30-plus points over and over and over again this season. And it's a foe that they match up real well with. So I would say that the Gonzaga side, as far as the total is concerned, I'm with you. I think 156.5 might be a bit too steep. The one thing you worry about in these type of games that could lead to blowouts is, Mark Few pulling his starters back with maybe 4 minutes left in the game, and the game's sitting around 27, and you got a second team in there trying to hang on to a 24-point number. That can be difficult for sure. But Gonzaga, if they are in that situation, obviously they're looking ahead to tomorrow night's championship game, and that's something to always think about. I think the total may stay under the 56.5.
Robbie, great breakdown as always. Got 2 games left here. Talking with Robbie Veno on Twitter at Rob Veno Sports off a 4-0 day yesterday. Also 2-0 in the AAF as well as college basketball. So heating up here, and check out sportsmemo.com for Robbie's top plays for just $9 each. Robbie, just real quick, any quick thoughts here on the AAF game as far as what you're seeing in the new football league? Yeah,
we've seen a separation from best to worst. Orlando under Steve Spurrier's direction, obviously the best team in this league, both sides of the football. Injuries are starting to take their toll. We had to play with Orlando on Saturday, laying a small price of 4 points against the Birmingham team that was a little bit overrated, had 3 offensive linemen down for that contest. It showed up. Birmingham just couldn't keep up, and in fact they had a backup quarterback in that game as well. You see some teams coming right now, playing better than they did to start the season. Atlanta for one. Memphis has played better. And the points, Drew, are starting to come. Take a look at this weekend's games, and you see higher scoring games. We talked about it to start the season. It would take the offensive lines a little bit of time to mesh. It would take these playbooks a little bit of time to sink in. These guys didn't have a ton of time, a huge preseason, to get accustomed to the playbook and each other. It's starting to show up now halfway through the season as you see some play calling get a bit more extensive, and you see much better execution out of the offenses. So down the road, I think that, odds makers in this league have tended to push these totals lower rather than higher. And if they continue with that philosophy, I think like this weekend, you'll be able to cash a lot more overs because the offenses are getting better right now.
All right, Robbie, and back to college basketball. We got a Horizon League game here. Oakland, Northern Kentucky. I believe this is the Horizon League tournament, and this is Oakland, not in Oakland, California, Oakland, Michigan, the Grizzlies under Craig Campy, I believe. 16-16 overall on the season. Going up against Northern Kentucky here, and Northern Kentucky having to lay 6. I guess you could say the stronger program, although Oakland has put together some good seasons in the past. Robbie, both teams I haven't bet all season. 152 as the total. Northern Kentucky laying 6.
Well, the difference between the two is Oakland uncharacteristically had to replace 5 starters this year, and really there was a lot of talk halfway through the season about what a struggle the rest of the campaign was going to be for the Oakland Grizzlies. But, head coach Greg Campy, you mentioned him, Drew. He's been there. I think, I'm not going to be exactly right, but he's been at this university as their head coach in the vicinity of 30 years now. Just a guy who's been there forever. They've had some really great teams in recent memory, like you said, but this was a young bunch that I don't think expected to be here. And against a Northern Kentucky team which thought they were going to win this thing last year and fell short, now upon return this year in a one-bid league, that's kind of a tough matchup there. Young kids, didn't expect to be here, a more veteran team that is trying to avenge the disappointment of last year. From a situational standpoint, you would look toward the Northern Kentucky side, although, and there's always counter arguments in handicapping and betting here, there's some credence to the theory that young teams are too dumb to understand what the situation is, what the magnitude is. But I think as it gets closer to a tournament championship, it does start to sink in a little bit. So Oakland at a bit of a disadvantage from my standpoint as far as leadership goes here. We'll see what they do. Their head coach, obviously the leader. When you have this many young kids, it's hard to get a floor leader. I think Javin Cumberland might be the best guy for that role for Oakland. But Northern Kentucky's got the best player on the floor. They've got the better defense. And like I say, they've got the added motivation of last year's disappointment. We see this number bump from an opener of -5 up to -6. You can still catch some 5.5s out there. As I look right now, Drew, I'm just looking at a bunch of well-known offshores that feature 5.5 right now. So maybe you can get in on the Northern Kentucky side. Total's been hit toward the under 154 down to 152. I think that's understandable. The two meetings this year were kind of opposites. One hit 150, one hit 143, but neither hit this expected number or current total of 152 tonight. So under may be worth a look. I'll say one thing. The way the two games went this past season, regular season, the team that led at halftime got taken to task in the second half of both of these games. Oakland led 36-32 at the end of the first half in the most recent outing. They get beat by 19 in the second half. And in the first matchup between these two, Northern Kentucky on the road held a 10-point lead and got beat by 12 in the second half and lost that game. So if you're one to follow that type of situational trend, wait till halftime, see who's winning, and come back the other way.
Robbie, we got one game left here. The West Coast Late Night Degenerate Special. It's definitely a get-back game, 11:30 Eastern tip. It's St. Mary's, San Diego here from the New Orleans and Las Vegas. Low total. Neither team's looking to push it. 125.5. St. Mary's seeing 4.5 or 5. Pinnacle being the lone shop with 4.5. So mostly 5s out there with St. Mary's right now. But Robbie, how would you look to bet this get-back game tonight?
I know one thing. I know the other night when we turned the clocks ahead and the West Coast Conference game was going to, I think it was BYU, was going to start about 1:30 in the morning. The first person that came to my mind was Drew Martin.
Oh, yeah.
Because I thought this is his type of game, 1:30 a.m. This is the ultimate degenerate special, and San Diego destroyed
yes.
BYU. in that contest. It was never close, 40-19 halftime. And just from there, BYU made a bit of a run the first couple minutes of the second half, and then it went back to form of the first half. Here, we had pretty much the same situation, Drew, that we just talked about with Wofford and NC Greensboro. St. Mary's had no problem with San Diego. San Diego's a good team. Some would say they're the third best team inside the West Coast Conference. I think my power ratings as of today would bear that out. However, they lose to St. Mary's by 20. They lose to St. Mary's by 17. They don't reach the 60-point mark in either game. They weren't really high-scoring games either. San Diego just could not score against this St. Mary's defense. I think there's a big discrepancy once again between these two teams' ability to shoot the three. St. Mary's has 3 guys in the starting lineup that shoot it at 38% or better, 2 that shoot it at over 41. They've got a little bit of a size advantage over San Diego, and I think San Diego's prime weapon is their guard play, and St. Mary's just matches up real good on the defensive end against these guys. You look at the percentages that San Diego shot in these 2 games, including the 15 of 51, 29% that they just shot on February 23rd against St. Mary's. And you understand, as good as San Diego's been this season, this is another game where I just feel like the matchup probably is just the matchup. The personnel dictates a lot of these results. And what we've seen from these 2 teams, from starters to bench, San Diego gets no help from their bench. In the first 2 meetings, I think they got 10 points total in 2 games from their bench. So if the starters can't get it done, there is no help. And St. Mary's just has their number where the starters are concerned. So to me, again, a number we saw opened at 5. It stayed a steady 5 all the way across. San Diego's a team that's played since the opening round here, but did, like Pepperdine, have yesterday off so they can get their legs back. But I just don't know if you start overcoming 20 and 17-point deficits in the conference tournament semifinal against a team in St. Mary's that, to tell you the truth, Drew, they're probably worthy of an NCAA tournament bid. I mean, we're talking about Wofford. We're talking about teams like Belmont, which lost on Saturday, that many believe are going to get an at-large bid from the OVC anyway, even though they lost. St. Mary's power rates as good as those 2 teams are very, very close to Wofford. I think only a half a point less. So this is a team that's NCAA tournament worthy, but they know their only ticket in is to go ahead and win this thing. So I just feel like St. Mary's, off of the 2 performances this year against this team, probably the right side. Price tag's fair. Once again, my power rating shows St. Mary's to be a 5-point favorite. They sit as a 5-point favorite, so I'd probably look that direction. San Diego's done a great job in this tournament. Just don't know that they like this particular matchup. Not that they would have liked playing Gonzaga any better. They've got to be happy that they're not the team in Gonzaga's half of the bracket. But this hasn't worked for them either against St. Mary's.
Robbie, great breakdown. I agree with you as far as that San Diego game. I just think they're up against it. And I think either way, Gonzaga is going to blow out both of these 2 teams. So if St. Mary's does win this game and then lose to Gonzaga, are they out of the tournament in your opinion?
If it's another blowout, Drew, they've been blown out 3 times. And we just saw these 2 teams play less than 10 days ago, I think. And St. Mary's had only a 3-point halftime deficit and wound up losing by 20, I think, or 20 plus. So it would be hard for them to make a case to the tournament committee, as I try to spit that phrase out there. They put a human element into it as well as all these other computer elements, and they're going to see St. Mary's against an NCAA tournament top seed getting destroyed 3 times if that happens, if the matchup occurs, and if that happens tomorrow night, and they're probably going to write them off. So for me, they probably have to win this thing. I think Wofford and Belmont are probably in better position to make their case than St. Mary's is, although I think St. Mary's is every bit as worthy as those 2 are.
All right, Robbie. And the guys, check out Robbie Veno's Sports Memo page. He's got 3 college basketball plays up for tonight's action, all of them discounted to just $9. Every play on the board throughout the whole website discounted to just $9. He's also got a free play up on Gonzaga with full analysis at his homepage on sportsmemo.com. Great day to check out the site. Also remember the coupon code CBB69 at checkout for Robbie Veno or myself, Drew Martin's next 7 days all access for just $69, $50 off the retail price. So guys, we'll be back tomorrow talking more sports betting action. Also Robbie Veno later in the week on Friday talking college basketball for the Saturday card and maybe the Friday card depending on the schedule, how it sets up. Haven't checked it out yet, but either way guys, we'll be back tomorrow. Talk to you soon. Best of luck with your bets tonight.